Beating the hard AI in most digital versions of board games can be quite a challenge for the newer player, and that's certainly the case with Concordia. Today, I'm going to show you some ideas on how to win against the hard AIs here on Legendary Tactics. And so we are going to go up against the hard AI, 3 of them in fact, and just on the standard map. I think, again, if you're learning Concordia or any digital game, I think that there's a lot to be learned from playing against the AIs. At least, to get your play up to a certain level where you can start challenging human players and giving them a run for their money. So I ended up last in line here, which, to be honest, is not my favorite spot in a game of Concordia. I much prefer to get out there and grab some resources and get set up right away. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So anyway, I'm looking at the map here, and what you want to look for generally are some opportunities for grabbing resources. Now, there's various theories on this as to what resources to grab. Now I'm going to use my diplomat, which I think is a perfectly valid first round play. Instead of using up your architect, you can use your diplomat as the architect, and then that gives you some extra, an extra architect move later on in the turn, which at the beginning, when things are quite cheap for you to build houses, I think that's a wise move. You'll see the AI. This is another example of how to learn by observation. You'll notice that Juniper and Marcus both also use their diplomat after Agrippina played the architect. So there's some wisdom in that. Now, in this particular map, there wasn't a lot of great options as far as I could see. I generally like to have brick. If I can, at least a source of brick early on, but I really wasn't seeing great opportunities there, and how I could potentially gain value. So I spotted this one, and I thought, okay, well, let's build wheat and brick. And you always want to build 2 cities, or 2 houses, whatever you call them, from the outset. And the main reason for that is, as you can see, when Agrippina takes prefect, you get a big boost in resources right out of the gate. It's also good to get to places before your opponent does. So if you can build 2 cities right from the beginning, that's great. I'm also keeping an eye on the card display and finding cards that are potentially useful and worth purchasing. It's always a good idea to be buying cards as much as you can. So if you see an opportunity, it's not a bad idea. Now, the only problem with what I did was it is between 2 different regions, between Italy and Greece there. And so playing the prefect is going to be a little bit diluted in that sense. And so I'm thinking about it here as to what the best option would be. But you're going to, obviously, if you can pull off 2 houses in the same territory in the first turn, that tends to be a little bit better, because the prefect card immediately gives you 3 resources right off the bat, which is pretty good, considering it probably cost you 3 resources to build those buildings. So you're getting really good value right away from your placement. I have so here's the prefect move, and I'm being very slow and deliberate here because I've been playing a little bit of Concordia lately. It's my return to the game, and I've found that it's been great, but I'd been a bit rusty, and so I was quite happy to get back to it. So the prefect there, I went with the brick because, again, brick is so fundamental in this game, especially early on, because you're building your infrastructure, and every city requires brick. Or pretty much everyone, I should say. But it's something that you're going to need a supply of, at least in the beginning of the game, when you're you're building out your infrastructure. And in this move, I was trying to get some wine. There was just this map I found to be a particular challenge. It seems like the brick was both grouped far away, and it was it was grouped and but it was also far away. So there was no spread that you could grab a brick and something else. It had to be some combination almost of two brick building, which is not always possible depending on the resources that you have. So now I'm looking at my cards, and I spotted. Sometimes you certainly in the digital game anyway, you intend to play prefect, and then you see 13 coins for for one play at the prefect. That's pretty good. If you see anything, let's say 9 or above, it's probably best to take the money. If you don't, someone else will. The AI will jump on that. So I also like to have the colonists card if I can grab it. I don't mind paying an extra carpet for that. If I can, because the colonist is so handy in a couple of different ways. Obviously getting colonists down, but it's building colonists in your existing cities. They don't have to start from Roma all the time, which is great. But also it can also be a great source of money, and quick. You just one card and you get X amount of coins, and that's really big. So anyway, I opted to just look at the cards. I said, well, okay, we'll take the Tribune, and we'll get another colonist in Roma, and then we'll move ahead with more cards after that. So the Mercantor, the basic Mercantor card, for whatever reason, I've fallen very much out of love with. I mean, if it's necessary, I'll play it, but for me, it's either Mercantor 5 or not at all. I just find that it's great if you really need what you certain goods that you don't have access to. It's vital, and you'll actually see the AI play a lot of Mercantor. And this is where the Diplomat can come in handy as well. You can see Juniper plays the Mercantor 5. So if you need some resources, now is a great time to play that Diplomat and take advantage of the AI's move there. And this one of the interesting things about this game. The Diplomat card really makes it a much more interesting game, because the fact that you do have to pay attention to what other players do, and there are going to be opportunities to take advantage of cards that spring up, and it's going to be something you need to pay attention to. Like there's a lot of Euros out there where you have to basically focus just on your own game. But here you can see taking the Diplomat, I can take that Mercator 5 and get some great value out of it. So it's well worth paying attention to what your opponents do, not only from a strategic standpoint on the board, but also if you see a card worth playing, you can use your Diplomat to take advantage of it. I like having two Diplomats. The only downside of the Diplomat is you're at the mercy of the other players if they all take Tribune. It kind of blocks your Diplomat move for that turn, and sometimes a lot of times they'll play Prefect all in a row, and you don't need a Prefect. So it can be a great card, but it is very situational, obviously, and sometimes it will steer your play a little bit, because there's a card down that I really need to take advantage of. But that's okay, because there is an element of opportunism in Concordia. If you see an opportunity, if there's a lot of coins available by playing the Prefect, then you got to take advantage. If there's an opportunity to play on a Mercator 5, use your Diplomat, and you have to be flexible in your plan. I mean, have your plan, but stay flexible. So here I'm looking I'm actually far behind. This game was unusual in that I was actually pretty far behind the AI at this stage. Everyone there is in their 30s, and I'm at 26. And I spotted this, opportunity over here to, again, my only downside, I'm building wheat and carpets, which is great. There is an advantage, especially victory point wise, from building in different regions, but sometimes, especially early on, I think it's better to build in the same region and get better bang for your prefect buck, if you will. So that was really, to me, this map, for whatever reason, I found very challenging to spot the best possible spots. But in the end, I think it's a good lesson in being flexible and just making the most of what you're given, which in Concordia is often the case. You're just making the best move given the circumstances that you are facing. I did want to secure a wine source as well, because in the cards you'll see, especially this card display, there are a lot of cards which are available with wine, and so I really wanted to make sure to get a source of wine. And it's always a good idea to get a source of every resource, whether you collect them yourself by playing the prefect card, or someone else plays the prefect and you get a free resource or two. That's totally fine. I'm loading up on brick here because I'm really I think building houses in this game, I think is really a great move in general, especially in the first half of the game. Sometimes colonists will give you victory points as well, and that's fine. It's another way to win, but I think having some a wide network of cities and spread out across different resources and different regions, that's what I like to see at the end of the game for me. I feel like I've accomplished something if I've got a good infrastructure. Colonists are certainly part of that, and obviously the more colonists you can place and get them out of your home base there to free up spots for resources is always a good thing. I've always kind of liked that mechanic. It doesn't make any sense historically, but I think it's a neat mechanic in that the colonists actually occupy space on your resource storehouse there, and I thought it was a neat mechanic, and it definitely makes it so that it's further balance to the game. So you can't just go all in on resources and so forth if you don't have don't make room for colonists. So now I played Tribune, and in general, if you can, especially if you don't have the colonist card, you'll want to make sure you're lining up a colonist build when you play the Tribune, because the Tribune is essentially a missed turn. You do get some money for it, but don't miss the opportunity to build a colonist. It allows your colonists to move further and reach more regions, to build more in the way of houses across the map, and that's a way to win the game from a few different angles. So it's well worth doing. Now I love to have the colonist card, and I haven't been able to add one to my deck yet, so I'm not going to miss out if possible on the opportunity to build a colonist. So the other guys, as we take a kind of a look here, I've managed to catch up a bit in victory points, still in last place, but and trailing Juniper by a fair bit, but I'm beginning to pick up steam, and again, if you can even line it up so you can build 3 cities in one turn. So you can see here, I've got 3 brick, 1 iron, 1 wine, 1 fabric, so or carpet. So if I can possibly build 3 cities, that would be a great big jump And I think that if you plan them out well, you can pull these kind of things off. But a lot of time, it's going to be the money that's going to hold you back, as it did here. It's just that my opponents got to the fabric or carpet spaces first, and so that drives up the price. And there's only so much I can do about that. So now it's just deciding which one do I want to go for. Do I want the carpet? Do I want? I mean, iron I think is a guarantee. I need a source of iron. Do I want more wine? How do I pull this off? And it would be great if I had just a little bit more money, and I'd be able to build 3. But unfortunately, that's not gonna work out at the moment. So there's a lot of brain burning going on right now, a bit of analysis paralysis. But I feel that in this game, you need to make sure that you're making the best move you possibly can. This game is a game of optimization, and so you want to make sure that you're doing the best move you possibly can at any given time. That's usually the case, but I think if you're up against a very good opponent, you're not going to have the much wiggle room to make mistakes, and it's going to be all about the most efficient move as in every case. So in general, that's the idea. And so now I need some money, so I'm going to take a quick look with the prefect, but it wasn't enough for me to choose that path, so I'm going to collect some more resources for now and see how it goes. So my opponents are chugging along. Look at Juniper's up to 69 points, and I'm trailing a fair ways now at this point, 49. And this game doesn't have any sort of catch-up mechanic, unfortunately. So if you do fall behind, it is just going to require sheer effort and skill in play if you're going to win. Now, I did take a bit of a chance in that there was a fair amount of money in the with the prefect card there, but luckily my opponents did not take advantage. So I'm going to pick up a couple of cards here. Now, I always love to get the console. The console for me is one of those cards that will power you through to get a win, just simply because it makes the purchasing a card so much cheaper. It's especially great if you are towards the end of the game, but you do need to time it right as well to make sure that you're not you're not giving your opponent the last moves where they can buy out the cards and get those 7 free victory points. And so, yep, there's Agrippina has just made a big jump, and so I'm pulling ahead. Oh, I was pulling ahead of Marcus there for a second, and now I'm firmly in last place again. So I'm going to purchase another diplomat. Again, just very flexible card, and so that gave me 72. Now I'm up to 72. So for me personally, I buy the card that makes the most sense from a practical standpoint, as in what action do I want to take, rather than buying a card that is just from the victory point perspective. Now that changes towards the end of the game, the last few turns, but in general, I want to get something practical out of it. I'm not just going to buy a card for victory points. To me, that's, there's always some use for it, but there's no point in buying a mason if you only have 1 brick, for example. Even if it gives you victory points, it depends on where in the game it turns up. But in general, I like to get a practical effect from a card. And the victory points are a bonus. And I just feel that it's, with solid play, everything will come together. Everything's so interwoven in this game that I'm not worried about the the victory points until obviously the last few card purchases. So I'm going to use the diplomat there to get an extra senator out of it. I finally kind of get my colonist, which is great. But now we're getting low on cards there, so we need to be very careful here. Obviously, when the cards get down to a low level like this, there's only 4 left. And in 4 players, it's hard to time it. But at lower player counts, you can usually set things up where you've got the senator and you just wait till the cards get to 2. And if you have the resources, boom, you can buy them out and get the bonus victory points. Yeah, I've crept up to 87. I've gotten into 2nd place somehow. And so now it's every move is going to be very, very you got to be very, very careful. Now the colonist isn't going to be useful from a building colonist perspective, and arguably at this stage of the game colonists are not really going to be the best purchase, not for expansion anyway, but maybe for victory points depending on your card mix. But one of the neat things about the digital game is when you play the live game, it's hard to track exactly where everyone is, because you don't know their mix. Every time they buy a card, it changes the score. Every time they place a colonist, but you don't have time in the middle of the flow of the game to to count everything up. So it ends up being I mean, you can math it out approximately, but if you're playing the game at any sort of pace, you just have to do the best you can and kind of glance through your deck and eyeball it. But with the digital version, you get an up-to-date news flash every turn as to who has what. And to be honest, that I think is a very valuable use of the digital version of this game, because when you know whether your strategy is working or not, that is instant feedback for you. So that's a good thing. So I'm going to take the colonists and take the money. I love the colonist card because of the flexibility. I did not have enough resources of the right kind to build colonists. So and again, if I had them, I might still build them because of the victory point opportunity. Now, as you can see, I've kind of miscalculated here. In the sense that I want to buy the last 2 cards. However, I only had the consul, and so I thought I'd roll the dice and see if I could do the Tribune and maybe get the Senator in if the AIs were too dumb. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I do have a full hand of cards to work with, and I have my last play. So one of the things that I had been eyeing in having my brick was, again, having that ability to build 3 cities in one go. So now it's just a matter of doing the math and checking, hey, is this doable? Can I build in these spots? I need a wine house, wine city, fabric, and steel. And let's see if I can, or iron or whatever, some metal, whatever metal it is. So I line this up, and this was really a last minute surge, and I managed to pull ahead. We'll do the final end game sale of goods and see where we end up. 108. 1 point above Agrippina, 2 points above Marcus. That's about as close a game as you can possibly have. Anyway, I hope you got some strategy ideas out of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.